and our area around here is rich in foraging, berries and other plants in August. So the dedication of that type of monument would be reflective of their history tied to the land in that perspective. And so if the council would entertain that idea and look at a possible place on the park around by the gazebo area or somewhere, we would appreciate it. And then we'll come back and introduce you to the artist. One of the tribal council members is going to join Noah and talk about the importance of these two locations and the relevancy, much more articulate than I could ever do. And then the artist will start the design process, which takes them about 9 months anyway, let alone that we have to have an installation project and stuff. But I've been privileged to see some of the concepts, and it's just amazing. Not big totem poles, nothing going like that, but just to interpret what they want to put as part of their history here on their lands. So if you'd consider that as well, I'd greatly appreciate it. And those were our only 2 projects.
Could we get sort of like a rough idea, maybe sort of what that would actually look like that goes in the park and sort of the size, so then that would give us a better visualization of sort of how tall and wide and what that would sit like in the park and where?
Yeah, and that would be coming in about, so right now Noah will take the lead with the cultural resource, and they have to take all the input from the artists and everything that are involved, and then they'll start the schematic to do the interpretation of what the theme is. They've landed on the theme, the Creator's Law, right? And that's where they'll start. So they're going to start working on that April, May, and by June they'll have the first drawings of conceptual design, and then the actual, that will be presented to the city, and they'll go from there.
And then I'll do an invite, maybe we'll do it before next council or the week before, and we could do a meet and greet out where they expected to put the gazebo structure on the other side of the coal mine trail. That's what I'm talking about, and we could meet there and look at that.
Okay, so thanks for the consideration.
Okay.
Thanks, Sherry.
Thank you. And then we can just bring it back and discuss location here. Does that make sense right before council? Just a few minutes before.
Good evening, all. I'm Doug Kilgore from 145 North 5th Street. I'd like to speak, and thank you for the opportunity to speak. It's nice to see you in person. A lot of planning has gone into this Forterra development, and different ideas have come forward. One thing that has never come forward is that these houses would not have indoor plumbing. I think we expect all of them to have running water and flush toilets. That refers to our sewer system. And a question that has come to me, for which I've never been able to obtain a solid answer, is what legal capacity does Roslyn have under its sewer agreement, to which it's a party with Suncadia, Cle Elum, I believe South Cle Elum. What is the accurate number of hookups that we are eligible to use and that are available to us? There's great concern that the city of Cle Elum has overbuilt beyond its allocated capacity. My Freedom of Information requests to them have received mumbo jumbo and rhubarb missing answers. No really clear answer. The city, you're in a position to get an answer. You're a party to this agreement. I don't know who has been assigned as the council member to attend the meetings, and I don't know when they have most recently met. The reports that I received were out of date in terms of the number of hookups that each user is reporting, and the status of the Suncadia hookups allocated to the Bullfrog development is also ambiguous. My request to the city, in all of our interests, I don't think this is a controversial or volatile question, except that it could be consequential if, as by some calculations, Roslyn has 50 hookups available, that we have 50 left, because although we're probably entitled to about 250, they've been used already. So if this project moves forward and we find out that there's no place to hook up the toilet, what are we going to do? When you've approved other development, other subdivisions, how do you plan to provide for that? The same question probably applies to our water system, but I think we have a lot more headroom there. All of these issues are affected by amendments to our water and sewer system with respect to leakage. For example, the city of South Cleon tightened up their sewer and gained a lot of capacity. So some of these things can be moved around, but I haven't been able to get a clear answer. Maybe you have. I would like to hear a public report at some point, especially as we're approaching this proposed development. Thank you.
Leah Hatfield, 125 Fifth Street. And just to clarify, I'm not a temporary employee at the city anymore. And this is all, of course, my own opinion. Didn't want any conflation there. I know that the development regulations are being reviewed, and I would just urge council that any new rules that you adopt, how are you going to enforce them? How are you going to pay for them? I think we have a lot of rules that we really can't handle in this town. It's just come up in a lot of different ways. This variance hearing that occurred, the amount of time that gets put into projects, and then, it's all of a sudden someone makes a phone call to a city council member and now it's going in a different direction. It's a lot of strain on our limited resources. As far as resources, I think we need to either figure out how to spend less money, which is probably almost impossible, or find more revenue. The obvious things to me are property and sales tax increase, which support the general fund, which is where we need it the most. But I think, like the vacation rentals, when I was working here, we got calls 2 to 4 times every week, people inquiring about the rules on that. And our strict rules haven't stopped my neighbor from running her illegal vacation rental. And I know I would feel better about it, at least if the city was getting revenue from those activities. And just embracing the fact that people come here for tourism. And how do we capitalize on that? As well as the paid parking plan that's been somewhat implemented. I think more signs have those up, and just some simple directional arrows so people realize it's a broad application. It's not just for that one stall. And I can't remember my other everything, but also another topic on water quality is just potentially a summertime watering schedule, because our water resources could someday be more strained than they are, and just having that ahead of time and in the plan so that everyone knows every summer, here's your watering schedule, so that if, God forbid, there's an emergency too. That's just one little step. So that's all. Thanks for your time.
Thank you,
Leah.
Any other citizen comments? Okay, so council concerns here, I got a couple here. Doug, to your point, I believe that we have between the 1,100 and 1,200, we'll find out exactly,
Yeah, I have it.
allocated. And I think that we're definitely less than 800. I think it's more like 7 something.
Yeah, I'll go back in the book. I've spoken to this several times and how many we had. This came up months ago, and if the same question was asked, and I think by you, that I've answered about how many hookups we were granted and how many hookups everybody else was granted. As of, I want to say, we're over 300 hookups about left, if I'm correct.
Yeah, that's about where I'm going.
Yeah.
May I?
I'm gonna go off, I'll go off my
The
book.
whole
I don't wanna
count, the
look
problem
at
with Clay Elm is the problem with
that.
Clay
Yeah,
Elm.
and we know that historically. I mean, when I came into council, I was asked with Cordy Cook to go to the meeting, and Cordy was quite a steward on this for a while. And what we learned was that we weren't able to get nobody was able to get information for years since this plant's been built from Clay Elm on whether it's their I&I percentages that were going into the sewer system that were compounding the extra water, how many hookups they have sold. I believe Safeway was a huge topic as one hookup and how that was calibrated. And I'm not sure, I'm not sure what Rodson could actually do about it besides make stink about it, But, Brett and I went to the last meeting.
Which was almost
Prior,
2
prior
years
to, it was
ago.
January pre-COVID,
Yeah.
January 2020. And we've been waiting for that other meeting. We've tried to actually find out if they've had meetings, and we've
They
never
have
been
not.
answered to have another
They
meeting.
can't have a meeting
And I
without
think,
us.
you know, actually, my comment to Brett would be, what we will do is we'll compound an email to the mayor of Clallam and demand that we have a meeting, and maybe Suncadia, and we'll ask a meeting coming up in April again, so we can sort of see where they're standing and what their plans are. We know that the treatment plant's had some issues in the past month, to be honest with you, with I want to say their INI and one of their meters. Readings.
PLC.
And there's no doubt that that plant's gonna be, I'm gonna be honest with you, it's probably gonna be used up in the next 5 years, 5 to 10 years. And there's gonna be a plant twice that size. When you look at City Heights getting put in, that was never calibrated to put in that system, that should trigger it from Clallam right off the bat, or be denied. 47 degrees north was sold hookups or granted hookups from Suncadia, and I'll get that allotment for you. I have that allotment in my notes, so I will find that, and I'll bring all this to next council and give a sort of what the hookups are that are documented in the agreement. And then I will bring in, if I can figure out from them, which they won't give them to us, I can guarantee it, they're not gonna tell us how many hookups they have. They've never been able to do that.
They're obligated under the
Yeah,
contract.
and we have
What
asked.
they do is they back it out.
Yep.
They have, finally, Suncadia is measuring their flow. Obviously, us
Yep.
and South Clallam have always measured
Yep.
our flow. And so Clallam just takes the remainder of the flow as what they use.
Yeah, and
Which
Suncadia
is
just put a new
ridiculous.
meter in last year to measure their
So,
INI.
or even earlier, but yeah.
Yeah,
Within maybe
not that
2
long
years.
ago.
Without
Yep,
COVID.
Yep, and we've actually probably been, to be honest with you, Roslyn's been the most due diligent in the past and present of trying to improve our INI every year. And that is, it's a fact. I mean, it's on our budget again this year
Yeah,
for the
Roslyn still
manhole
works
covers.
on
And,
it.
you know, there's this stint here, I'm gonna say, for 5 years, nothing happened with INI. And it just got kicked down the road, and we're back on track trying to improve that. New public works director, new geared up, new plan, some funding behind it. With the manholes, and so we'll improve our part, but we do, I want to say we're around, I want to just ballpark, we're around 300 hookups left, but not actual one hookup is equal to one home either. And so it's not based on per home, it's based on usage. And so I'll bring those formulas in for you if you'd like to see those, and you can see what those are based upon, but it's all in the contract. It's all in the book.
Yeah, I've seen the agreement, but it sounds like we still don't understand the impact of whatever is going on in Clallam.
Been fighting it for 20 years.
Yeah, well, they were, as Joe has always explained to us, they were in
And I
trouble
spent,
before any of
yeah, a
that.
lot of time with Joe on this. And, you know, as pesky as Joe was, I was surprised, you know,